Welcome to the first part of my koi pond project. This is going to document a lifelong dream of mine to build a massive koi pond full of beautiful fish right here in my back garden. Since I was very young, probably about 4 or 5 years old, I have been obsessed with water and with everything that lives within it. That was what satisfied my mind. And I'm sure there's people just like me out there watching this video. Water and the fish that swim within it are fascinating. Thought about it quite a lot. How can I have a massive pond in a relatively small garden? How can I make that work? And how am I going to afford it? It was only once I'd spoken to professionals that I realised not only was I not particularly skilled or knowledgeable about pond building, but I also didn't have enough money to actually do the dream pond. And this was where Awaza came in. Awaza are a company that manufacture all sorts of pond and fish keeping equipment. I proposed the idea to them that we build this dream koi pond. The pond specialist team put it together and Awaza supplied the kit. And thankfully, it all came together, and early this year, I think on like the 5th of January or something, the project actually got started.
We'd just like to get all the equipment in, get ourselves marked out so we know where we're going to dig, and yeah, ready for day 2 where we're going to make a real mess.
Well, the guys have flattened my entire garden today and also begun to mark out the actual shape and size of the pond. Before the pond specialist team arrived, we had to clear the garden. So my dad and I basically created a blank canvas for the guys to start work on. We took apart our old ponds. Rather than letting those sleepers go to waste, those pieces of wood would be used to build the raised planters, in the newly designed garden. Now some of you will be asking, but where's the fish? I know a lot of you care quite a lot about my big carp called Charlie the Chagoi. Whilst this new pond project was completed, we needed to make the space, we needed to reuse the sleepers, so I got a friend of mine to look after Charlie during this duration. Now Ben, who owns the company, he's definitely more water quality orientated. He understands the pond and the fish keeping side of things, but Jason was a garden designer. I was like, I don't need a garden designer, it's fine, I can do it. And then he said, no, let me do some measurements in the garden and maybe we can have a big pond but not make it look really silly, because a massive pond in a small garden was inevitably going to be tricky to make it work. We had to factor in space for a filter house, and we had to also not lose the planting and stuff that makes a garden actually a garden. As soon as I had seen the first design, there was elements of it that I loved. I told Jason, this is awesome, this is such a good idea. A glass window across the front with the pond opening up and becoming larger towards the back of the garden. Then there was raised beds for my brother's vegetable patches and stuff down one side, and a planting area around the back to help soften it all. And I just thought, that's really, really nice. Anyway, my brother ended up moving out last autumn, I think it was. He'd been looking for a place to move out to, and he found himself a nice flat. So he moved out, and then I was like, well, I'm not so fussed about the vegetable beds. So we decided to instead join all of those vegetable beds together to create one large planting area. It took 2 or 3 days, I think, to get down to the depth we wanted. We wanted this pond to be 5 foot in total. So we were going 3 foot or so into the ground and then coming up by a couple of feet as well. Of course, when you dig the hole, you need to go deeper than you think, because you need to lay some type 1 aggregate in the bottom. You then need to pour your concrete to set your drains within. I'll get onto that later. But yeah, we had to dig a bigger hole than we thought we needed. I think one of the things that I found incredible is that the pile of mud is massive. The guys have explained to me that the reason why that pile of mud is so big compared to the size of the hole is because when you dig it out of the ground, it expands, air gets mixed in, it breaks apart, and yeah, it looks like more once it's come out of the ground. But I think we're gonna do 2 or maybe 3 lorries, like grab lorries, full of soil before we're finished excavating. Well, this is a mad situation. I've just come into my house to get a quick breather and to grab the camera. And I want to tell you that currently my drone is hovering above the house. And that is happening. I'm standing in the hole. It's still being dug out behind me, but the actual full size of this hole is nearly done. There is a small amount of water coming in at the bottom of the hole, which I guess just shows how deep this thing is. By the time that hole had been dug, I looked into the garden and just thought, what have we done? Day 3 has come to an end. You've made a massive hole in my garden.
Yes.
With the aggregate laid in the bottom of the pond, we now had to mark out our bottom drains. Bottom drains work a lot like a plug hole in a bath. Rather than pumping water out near the surface, it makes total sense to take water to the filters from the bottom of the pond, where all of the dirt and the fish poop and the leaves and the, rubbish settles. This is a really efficient way to keep the bottom of the pond clean, but also get a great amount of flow pushing through those pipes to, feed the filtration system. Ryan, what are you doing here?
She said to come and see your hole.
Well, yeah, I didn't quite say it like that. But yeah, what do you think, Ryan?
I could swim in it.
we could all swim in it.
All the is she in like the quarantine thingy?
No, she's gone to my friend's pond. I love that you come to see me and the first thing you ask, it's not like how's Omi or how's Alex.
How's Charlie?
How's my koi?
Well, this is for your koi.
Yeah. Oh, my koi is going to be very happy.
Well, I mean,
with
this is probably bigger than your old pond without it even being above the surface.
Yeah, I know, right? Ben, it's not going to leak, is it?
Of course not. Have faith.
As well as the large 4-inch diameter pressure pipe that runs underneath the pond, which is going to take the water out, just next to it is a thinner pipe. That will carry air. What it enables us to do is put an air pump in the filter house that pushes air down there, and then the air bubbles will come up through the dome on the bottom drain. Basically, the combination of bubbles going up and the water going down the drain helps keep the bottom of the pond clean, and it also oxygenates the water.
I'm looking forward to the next stage, which is what?
Next stage is pouring a load of concrete into the bottom, and then building all the blocks around the outside, and then fiberglass, and then filter house, and then
Long project.
A load of other things. It'll be months, basically. Hello,
Hello. It's loads more.
What do you think?
It's a hole.
A big hole.
With pipes. Oh, it's amazing.
Stuff's happening though.
Yeah.
The next step was probably the most exciting one of all, pouring the concrete into the base of the pond. Everything else had taken a lot of time. It was a slow process and I had to be patient, but not with the concrete pouring. We had a huge truck full of concrete, and it lifted its sort of arm up over the fence, and the guys had created this slide for the concrete to slip down into the base of the pond. Actually, do you mind leaving that slide there for when the pond's done? I reckon that would be quite a nice way to cool off in the
You
summer.
might have members of the public jumping over the wall as well.
Once it was down there, they then had to rake it into place and make sure that it settled as flat as possible. Well, that was definitely the most exhilarating step of the project so far. Pouring the concrete over the wall. Never imagined they could do that.
Very exciting, wasn't it?
The concrete is now in. Ben reckons that we're on schedule, which is good. The concrete is down.
Get this levelled, tidy up, and off we go.
See you on Monday.
See you on Monday.
Over the weekend, the concrete set, and on Monday morning, the guys were back and ready to start building the block work. It's Monday morning, and that means the pond builders are back for their second week. Over the weekend, I basically just caught up on everything that I should have been doing last week, but as the pond's happening and the guys are in the garden doing stuff, I'm finding it really hard to sit at my desk and do editing. I will get around to it at some point, but right now the guys are out there. They're going to start doing the block work today, I think, and basically that means we're going to start seeing the shape of the pond. This is actually reminding me a lot of that game we used to play at the arcade with the claw. Apart from obviously they're actually grabbing it each time, which is good. These concrete blocks are actually hollow, so as you lay them down and as they build the wall, you can put steel reinforcement rods horizontally and vertically through these blocks, and then when you're done, pour concrete in to the cavity within the blocks. What it essentially ends up with is a solid concrete wall, something that just will not break. It's something that can't possibly break. You're talking about 17 cubic meters of water being within this pond when it's done. That's just tons and tons and tons of water. And yeah, you can't cut corners. You have to make it really, really strong to ensure you don't have leaks or any problems in the future. Someone told me that if you keep builders well fed and watered, then they do the work better. So that's what I intend to do. These guys deserve some food. The rain's coming down now, but the guys are still cracking on. Block work is... What do you reckon? Do you reckon the block work is a third done? Half done? Very nice.
If you look at that bit of bubbles in the right place. Only on this corner though, don't look at it more.
Don't you agree though that you're literally the best block layer that's ever laid blocks in this garden on a pond?
In this garden?
Yeah, on a pond.
Yeah, because like, I didn't lay them bricks, so I'm alright.
Do you know who laid those bricks?
Probably your mate, wasn't it?
No, my brother.
Well, he's had a good go. Well done. Well done.
They're a little bit wobbly.
Yeah, alright, rustic.
Yeah. It's a little bit noisy. I do feel a little bit for my neighbours right now because they have put up with this now for 2 weeks. With the cold weather preventing us from doing any block work, the guys decided that now was a good time to dig out the base for the filter house. We needed some foundations to build the filter house on top of, and we also needed to position some pipe work beneath it. This was one of the most exciting parts. I know it doesn't sound like it, but to me it was. We positioned drain pipes for if we spilt water on the floor of the filter house. Then also we have a waste pipe from the filter, and then also another pipe for when we purge the bottom drains. Anyway, all those pipes joined into one, and then that goes out the back of the pond and down into the soakaway. With that all complete, and with the shuttering in position, the guys were able to put concrete into the base of the filter house.
The last block.
Now, excuse me if I'm getting ahead of myself at this stage, but looking at the pond and starting to see the structure of it and the pipework, I started to think about fish. Obviously, I already own a beautiful chagoi called Charlie. I've also got a Makashi Ogon, which is kind of like a ghost carp, which is currently living at a shop called Quenny Koi, somewhere up north. I point north because it's in the Midlands area of England. Basically anywhere above London for me is north. So I've got 2 fish already, but looking at the size of the pond, I was like, you know, I could definitely have more than 2 fish in that. Kitsu is the koi dealer that imported Charlie when my first ever Japanese koi. So I drove up there, met up with Chris, and I just walked up to the big main pond, looked at one and just went, oh, I love it. I love that fish, that's amazing, it's beautiful, it's so tame. It was the tamest one in the whole pond. It's a karashigoi. It's like a yellowy coloured karashigoi. Karashis are one of my favourite koi varieties. They're always like one colour fish. Sometimes you get them in like mango colour, yellowy colour. Sometimes you get deep red ones as well, which are really cool. I didn't see any deep red ones, but I might try and find one of them soon. But anyway, I saw this big fish in the main pond and I was like, right, I want it. I just want it. Of course, it's completely out of my price range, and the guy, Chris, who runs the shop, didn't really want to sell it to me. It's kind of the shop pet. I had a look around the rest of the shop and I saw some medium-sized fish, I saw some really little ones, and then Chris said, oh, check out this one. He bowled it up for me and we looked at it up close. It was an incredible, I think they call the variety a kin matsuba. I think that's right. Incredible fish, and again, I was in love with it and I just really wanted it for my pond, but budget-wise, it's going to be a stretch. Anyway, I'll put the question to you guys, what would you do? You know, what in your wildest dreams, what would you stock into a pond like this? I'd love to see what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Little colourful ones, mixture of colours, big kahaku, massive, friendly, plain sort of coloured fish. Let me know what you'd do, and we'll talk more about the stock of this pond in part 2 maybe of the koi pond build. Upon returning home from the koi shop, the pond building team were now drilling holes through the wall for a number of reasons. One of these holes is the return from the heater. Another one is just the water coming straight from the filters, so that's quite a fast flowing jet of water to keep the bottom of the pond clean and to circulate the water around it. But then they were also drilling holes through the walls because I wanted to do something a little bit different with this build. I wanted to have lights in it. Now, you don't see a lot of koi ponds with lights beneath the surface. Normally you see fish sort of lit from above. Now, what I wanted to create, and this is the dream, we'll have to see whether or not it ends up working, but I wanted to light the fish from below so that of an evening, there will be sort of dark silhouettes of fish drifting around the pond with light sort of coming up out of the pond onto the garden. Whether or not that ends up working and really being as magic as I imagine it, we'll have to wait until the whole lot is done.
What do you think of the front of our house, Om? Stunning. It's work in progress. More piles of mud.
Oh, the strawberries.
Oh, your plants.
A bit dusty.
A little bit dusty.
The Awaza drum filter has been delivered. Look at the size of that. It's a little bit of an upgrade from my last pond filter.
That day we had the delivery for the filter that we'd chosen for the pond. I'd gone for a Profi Clear Premium, which is kind of like a combination filter. It's split down the middle. One half is a rotating drum with a really fine mesh that takes out all of the solids. It makes the water crystal clear. And then in the other compartment is the biological media. I could talk about filtration and make a video that's 2 hours long, but this isn't the video for that. It is fascinating though, and it's such a complex and just mind-blowing process. Things were really cracking on now, and we had the pond built to full height. We could really start seeing the shape of the pond and how the garden's going to look. We then started constructing the raised planting area on the left-hand side of the garden. This was made out of the sleepers that we previously had built our old pond out of. So no waste on materials. That started getting done. In the next couple of days, I think tomorrow actually, my friend Steve, he's coming to start building the filter house. So it's all systems go right now. It's such an exciting time for me. The dream that I've had since I was a kid of having a massive pond full of beautiful, colourful fish in my own garden is coming real, and I really hope that you've enjoyed watching part 1. Part 2 will be coming out very soon.